Welcome back, everyone, to Family Secrets Unveiled, where we peel back the layers on the most chilling secrets hidden within family legacies. Today's story isn't about ghosts of the past or ancient feuds, but about an inheritance and one single rule. A simple rule that carried with it an unimaginable horror. It came from the person you'd trust the most, and it threatened to destroy everything you've ever known. Our story begins with Elias, a young and ambitious architect. He had spent his entire adult life trying to escape the shadow of his wealthy, yet emotionally distant, family. He had built a life of his own with a stable job, a small downtown apartment, and most importantly, the love of his life, Clara. Clara was everything Elias wasn't: warm, vibrant, and always buzzing with positive energy. She was an artist, her hands perpetually stained with paint, her soul as free-spirited as her abstract canvases. They were a perfect pair, a symphony of opposites. Their life was a dream, until a letter arrived. A letter from the family lawyer, announcing the death of Elias's grandmother. She was the last of the family to bear their prestigious name, a name Elias had long tried to forget. His relationship with her had always been remote, cold. She lived in a large, ancient mansion nestled in the countryside, and Elias rarely visited. The letter stated that she had left him her entire estate, including the dilapidated old manor. It was a gift, a financial liberation, a chance for them to start over. Elias and Clara decided to move there. Despite some apprehension, the prospect of owning a vast house with a garden and a dedicated studio for Clara outweighed any concerns. The mansion was a true architectural masterpiece, a classical Victorian style with large windows and long, shadowy corridors. But it had a strange silence, a heavy feeling that was unsettling. Inside the house, Elias found an old journal belonging to his grandmother. The journal contained only one line, scrawled in red ink: "Do not ever open the attic." Elias chuckled, thinking it was just an eccentricity of an old woman. His grandmother had always been known for her strange rules. As a child, she had forbidden him from touching the grandfather clock or entering the study. Elias decided to ignore it. Clara, however, was different. She had a keen intuition. She felt something was wrong. She had seen Elias's face as he read the will. "The condition for the inheritance," Elias read aloud, his voice trembling slightly. "You must live in this house for at least 1 year. And, under no circumstances, are you to open the attic." That phrase hung in the quiet air like a blade. Elias felt a sense of mystery, a surge of curiosity. But Clara, she felt dread. This wasn't just a rule. It was a warning. On their first day, they began to clean. The house was enormous, with dozens of rooms, and at the very top, a dark wooden door. It was the attic. The door wasn't locked, but a faded, red strip of adhesive tape was stretched across it. It wasn't meant to seal it, but to mark it, a reminder. As night fell, the house came alive with strange sounds. Footsteps, whispers. Elias chalked it up to the wind, the settling of the old house. But Clara knew better. Sometimes, she felt a presence behind her, a cold shadow brushing against her shoulder. One night, she heard a scuttling sound in the attic, as if someone was moving something around. She looked up at the ceiling and saw a dim light bulb flicker faintly, a weak light like a slow heartbeat, pulsing somewhere in the darkness. Elias simply said it was the old wiring, but he no longer smiled with the same ease as before. Something had begun to creep into their lives. A secret, a warning, and an irresistible temptation. The longer they stayed in the house, the more Elias changed. He became more irritable, more withdrawn. His work stalled. Elias began spending hours researching the history of the house and his family. He no longer cared about his job or Clara's paintings. He was obsessed with the attic. He would stand for hours at the bottom of the stairs leading to it, staring at the old tape. It was no longer just a rule. It had become a dare. Clara noticed Elias's distance. She tried everything to pull him out of his obsession, but to no avail. She felt like she was slowly losing the man she loved. At the same time, the strange occurrences in the house became more distinct. They were no longer just vague sounds, but tangible events. One night, while Elias was sound asleep, Clara heard a knocking from the attic. A soft, steady knock, like a finger counting. She shot up in bed, her heart pounding. She shook Elias, but he wouldn't wake up. She was alone, facing the knocking. She was afraid, but also intensely curious. The next day, while Elias was working on his computer, Clara decided to investigate on her own. She went up the stairs and touched the attic door. The door was ice cold, a chill that wasn't from the wood, but from something inside. She saw that the tape had partially peeled away. Maybe it was the wind, she told herself, but she knew it wasn't. In Elias's study, Clara found one of his grandmother's old sketchbooks. Inside, she had drawn a series of strange images, figures with empty eyes, unusual geometric patterns, and on the last page, a sketch of a door. It was an exact replica of the attic door, but with a single eye staring out from it. Underneath the drawing, a single phrase was hastily written, "Don't let it out. It is our death." Clara didn't believe in ghosts or supernatural things. She was a woman of science and art. But what she was seeing, what she was feeling, was shaking her every belief. She decided to investigate further. She went to the city library, searching for information on Elias's family. Elias's grandmother was not the only heir to the mansion. Before her, there was her brother, Arthur. Arthur was a talented architect, but he had mysteriously disappeared. There was no information on his death or disappearance. The family had worked hard to keep this a secret. Clara also found an old newspaper article about the tragic death of Elias's grandmother's daughter, his Aunt Evelyn, when she was just 16. The cause of death was listed as an accident in the house, but with no specific details. His grandmother had never mentioned Evelyn to Elias. When she returned home, Clara found Elias standing in front of the attic, his hand on the door. "What are you doing?" she asked. "I'm just curious," he said. "I think we should open it. Maybe it's just old junk." Elias's voice sounded different, not like the man she loved. Clara told Elias about what she had found, about Arthur, about Evelyn. Elias listened, but he didn't react. He was no longer the logical man she knew. He was being pulled by some force. "Clara, I think we can find an explanation up there. I feel like I have to do this," he said, his eyes empty, as if someone else was speaking through him. That was when Clara realized it wasn't Elias's curiosity. It was something in the house compelling him. A soul, a curse, or a terrifying secret trying to break free. She knew that if they opened that door, it would all be over. But Elias didn't. He was already captivated, and she had to save him. She had to stop him, even if it meant facing the ultimate horror. Everything had reached its breaking point. The conflict between them, and with the house itself, was now unavoidable. The tension reached its peak. Elias, under the influence of an unseen force, decided to open the attic door. He carried a crowbar, ready to pry the door open. Clara, in a state of desperation, tried to stop him. She hugged him, yelling, begging him not to do it. Elias pushed her away, his eyes cold and distant. "I have to do this," he muttered. "I have to know." As he was about to use the crowbar, the attic door suddenly swung open. Not by Elias, but by some force from within. A gust of cold wind, carrying the smell of damp earth and decay, rushed out. Elias and Clara stood stunned, staring into the profound darkness. From within, a voice echoed. It was the voice of a young girl. "Elias, you've come." Clara recognized the voice of Evelyn, the name of the deceased aunt. Elias stood motionless. He saw a faint figure, a girl with long black hair and empty eyes, just like in his grandmother's sketch. She wasn't a ghost, but something else, a being created from pain and loneliness. Evelyn recounted her story. She was an artist like Clara, but she had suffered from a mental illness since childhood. Elias's grandmother, obsessed with preserving her family's reputation, had hidden her in the attic, lying that she had died. Only Arthur, her brother, knew the truth. He had tried to help Evelyn escape, but his grandmother had prevented it, terrified that the secret would destroy everything. Evelyn, in her despair, had committed suicide in the attic. Her soul was trapped there, caught between life and death, waiting for someone curious enough to release her. And now she had found Elias. She had been haunting him, compelling him to free her. Clara, with an artist's intuition, realized something. Evelyn didn't just want to be freed. She wanted to be reborn, to take over Elias's body. She had lived in loneliness and despair for too long, and now she wanted to experience the love, the life that Clara had. Elias was mesmerized by Evelyn's words. He moved closer, ready to accept her. "Let me in," Evelyn said, her voice sweet, yet hiding a terrible darkness. "We'll be a family again." Clara, in a moment of clarity, screamed, "Elias, look at me. That's not who you are. You're Elias, the man I love." She grabbed a bottle of her paint, a special material she used for effects, and threw it at the opposite wall. The bottle shattered, creating an abstract image with a single red eye, identical to the one in her grandmother's sketchbook. The image was a shock. The eye of Evelyn in the attic suddenly contracted. She shrieked in pain, recoiling. It turned out the drawing wasn't just a warning, but a seal, a spell, created to contain Evelyn. Elias's grandmother, in her final days, had tried to create something to restrain her daughter's soul. Elias, in a moment of lucidity, realized what was happening. He saw the truth. Evelyn wasn't a victim. She was a demon. She didn't want salvation. She wanted revenge. But Evelyn didn't give up. She extended a long, skeletal hand from the darkness of the attic. The hand didn't touch Elias, but a painting of Clara's. The canvas suddenly ripped apart. Evelyn's screams echoed throughout the house. "If I can't have this life, then no one will." The battle wasn't between Elias and a ghost, but between a love and an obsession. Clara stood in front of Elias, ready to fight for her love. This confrontation would decide their fate, and whether they could escape the curse of this house. The confrontation took place in a moment of terrifying silence. Evelyn, unable to possess Elias, turned to destroying everything around them. Furniture flew, windows shattered. But everything was directed towards one single target: Clara's paintings. Every destroyed canvas was a blow to her soul. It was an attack not just on her art, but on her very being. Clara understood that she had to fight not only to protect Elias, but to protect herself, to protect the beauty and life that Evelyn had been denied. Elias, after breaking free from the trance, regained his sanity. He rushed to hug Clara, shielding her. He screamed at Evelyn, "Why are you doing this? Why do you want to destroy everything?" Evelyn, in her faint form, stopped. Her voice was no longer a shriek, but a weak, sobbing cry. "They abandoned me. I was forgotten. Only you, Elias, are the only one who remembers me." Clara looked at Elias, and she understood. The grandmother didn't just hide Evelyn in the attic. She had trapped her there, because she was terrified that her daughter's death would bring shame to the family. Elias's grandmother was not an eccentric, but a cruel person. She had created a curse to hold Evelyn back forever, not allowing her to pass on, because she was afraid the truth would be exposed. It was fear and selfishness that turned the attic into a prison and Evelyn into a demon. Elias looked at Evelyn's form. He knew the only way to free her wasn't to fight, but to forgive. "Evelyn," he said, his voice warm and full of love, "you're not alone anymore. We are here, and we will never forget you. Let everything end. Rest in peace." As Elias spoke those words, the red tape on the attic door suddenly began to glow. It wasn't ordinary tape, but part of the curse. As Elias spoke, the light slowly faded, and Evelyn, in the form of a girl with tearful eyes, was finally freed. She disappeared into nothingness, no longer a demon, but a soul at peace. The house returned to its inherent silence, but it was not the cold silence of before. It carried a sense of tranquility, as if a great burden had been lifted. Elias and Clara stood together, holding each other tightly. They had gone through a horrific nightmare, but their love had won. They decided to leave the house, This was not where they belonged. They decided to start over, somewhere else, where there were no secrets and no pain from the past. And as they left, Elias took only one thing with him: his grandmother's sketchbook. The drawing was no longer a warning, but a reminder of the danger of hidden secrets, a reminder of the power of truth and love. The message of this story is simple. Sometimes the biggest secrets aren't the ones that are hidden, but the truths we try to deny. It also shows that haunting and tragedy don't come from ghosts, but from human pain itself. And only love and forgiveness can truly set us free. Thank you for watching this story with us. If you've ever experienced a similar story, share it with us in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to Family Secrets Unveiled so you don't miss out on other mysterious stories. Hit the notification bell to be notified when a new video is out, because who knows? The next secret might just be yours.